The presence of so many distinguished guests here offers a powerful statement about the stature and impact of the officer we are honoring today. Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Secretary Coons, thank you for taking time out from your busy schedule to be here. To the many senior executives and intelligence service officers who are here, we very much appreciate your support of this military ceremony. And then for all the friends and co-workers who are here, we appreciate your efforts to battle the pre-Labor Day traffic to join us. Thanks for coming. Before I get into the details of Connie's distinguished career, I'd like to introduce some very special guests in the audience. First and foremost is Bill Meskill, Connie's husband. They met during their first duty assignment in San Antonio, Texas, and just celebrated, I'm told, their 20th wedding anniversary. They have two sons, David, who's 15 and a sophomore at Lake Braddock Secondary School, and 10-year-old Mark in the 5th grade at White Oaks Elementary. Also joining us is Bill's dad, Bill Meskill Sr., who flew up from San Antonio to be here. And I found out he has a connection to General Clapper, Director Clapper. Connie's brother Reynold and his wife Lynn and their 3 girls who drove in from Cleveland, and Connie's sister Virginia who came up from Goochland, Virginia. And Connie's best friend since high school, Teresa, and her family also made a special trip from Ohio to be here. It's quite fitting that Connie chose this fantastic location, the Women's in Military Service Memorial, as a location for her retirement ceremony. And in fact, it was my first visit down here Wednesday when we came down to rehearse, and I didn't even realize it was here, so very glad that I was able to see it for the first time. She is in fact one of the charter members for when the memorial was dedicated in 1997. But Connie's interest in the military and in the Air Force in particular started much earlier. Connie and her siblings grew up in a military family. Their dad was in the Air Force as a radar navigator in a B-52 bomber. They lived in New York, California, and Nebraska before their dad retired to the family farm in Ohio. Connie enjoyed the Air Force way of life and was determined to go to the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs following her high school. She got in, did well, graduating as a distinguished graduate in 1989, having majored in international affairs and minored in Spanish. Connie says she joined the Air Force to see the world. But since she went into the intelligence career field, she's mainly seen the inside of rooms without windows. After completing intelligence applications officer course in San Angelo, Texas in 1990, her first assignment was to headquarters and electronic security command in San Antonio, Texas, where she was a command briefer. In 1993, then Captain Meskill was selected to the Foreign Area Specialist Program and received her Master of Arts in Middle Eastern Studies from the University of Texas in Austin. Following school, Connie and Bill traveled up to Northern Virginia, and they spent the majority of their time here ever since. Connie's first DC assignment was in the Intelligence Analysis Director of the National Air Intelligence Center at the Pentagon in 1995, and then she was a briefer for the Air Force Chief of Staff, an information warfare analyst, and an intelligence liaison to the Space Control Office. She was selected as National Capital Team Company Grade Officer of the Year. Her next assignment was at the Air Staff, serving as Chief Defensive Information Warfare Operations and the Directorate of Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance on the Air Staff. It was during this time that David was born. In 2000, Connie escaped the Pentagon and went to Osan Air Force Base in Korea and was commander of the readiness flight in the 607th Air Intelligence Squadron. And it so happens at that time I was commanding the Army Intelligence Brigade in Korea. Bill and David also enjoyed the year in Korea, as did my family, enjoyed their time there. Because of her work on exercises, wartime processes, and training plans, Connie was selected as the Field Grade Officer of the Year in the group. In 2001, Connie returned to her information operations passion and became the commander of the 14th Information Warfare Flight at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California for 2 years. The tragic events of September 11th occurred while she was building up the unit and forever changed the way that intelligence did its business. Mark was born in Santa Maria, California, but was there for less than a year before it was time to move again. Following Vandenberg, it was back to D.C. for immediate development education at the Joint Military Intelligence College at Bowling Air Force Base, and Connie graduated with a second master's in strategic intelligence in 2004. After school, she joined the Joint Staff and the Director of Intelligence at the Pentagon as a Middle East analyst, rising to be a senior intelligence officer in the Joint Intelligence Analysis Office of the Defense Intelligence Agency before moving to the Central Intelligence Agency in December 2006. At CIA, Connie was executive assistant to the Associate Director of Military Affairs for 3 years. Oh, by the way, that was General Welsh, who happens to be the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, really important guy. She worked for two associate directors, 2 directors, and 3 reorganizations during that time. So lots of things going on. Most interesting thing was she thought her career was over after all that and returned to the Air Staff in October 2009, thinking it would be her last tour, but something else was in the plans. She worked in both cyberspace operations and information operations divisions before being surprised with the promotion to colonel, and I certainly think the Air Force got that right. A month after pinning on the colonel's eagles, Connie was assigned to the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Since being here, she has added a degree of insight into the intelligence community that few military officers have had before. When I first came on board, I tasked her to support the Joint Command that was working to defeat improvised explosive devices, which is the biggest casualty producer of service members on the battlefield. This resulted in a focused national intelligence effort supporting the command and received much appreciation from Lieutenant General Barbero for the efforts. Connie has helped tackle some of the most difficult intelligence sharing issues and shape national security guidance. It has been a pleasure working with Connie, and we have all benefited from her can-do attitude. Today, the Air Force loses a valuable officer, one who is always dedicated to her airmen, the military, the intelligence community, and the nation. Connie and Bill, on behalf of a grateful nation, thank you for your many years of service and for what you have done and will continue to do in retirement.